I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to
Konnichiwa to you all and welcome to round 10 of the Formula SimRacing Pro Championship, which is brought to you live from the twisty yet still high-speed Matsusaka circuit, home of the FSR Japanese Grand Prix, a track that is universally loved by the drivers for its flowing nature, and it's a track that will be a test of traction out of the slow hairpin and chicane, but also a test of front-end grip through the rollercoaster ride that is Sector 1. It's also a unique track on the calendar, being that it's a figure of 8, the only one we have on the FSR calendar, and it's also a track that will be difficult to overtake at, as these FSR 2021 cars don't have DRS, so drivers will need to be heavily committed on the brakes into that final chicane, or absolutely be perfectly alongside the other driver into turn 1, and even the hairpin at the midpoint of the lap. But don't set the car up purely for the corners, or you'll be a sitting duck on the run from Spoon down to the 130R, and also along that long pit straight that we have here today. And we saw some contact going into turn 1 and the 130R in the Academy race. Will we see some more bold moves in Pro here today? To find out, we need to look to the race ahead, brought to you by 3D Wrap SimLab and Masita Esports. And in the booth today, it's myself, Aidan Millward, and alongside me, after a round away, it's Alex Skinner. Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I've taken my break. I've had some nice, beautiful, I would say sunshine, but, here in the UK, we don't get that sort of thing. I've taken that break, and I'm back here now at the beautiful Matsusaka circuit here in Japan, and a circuit that has a very coin flip sort of relationship with myself. Never had any luck here personally, but it is a circuit that is very fun to drive, whether you are hot lapping or racing in multi-class endurance, which is, of course, what I more specialise in. But Aidan, we both know this track probably like the back of our hands, both, growing up sort of around the open wheel side of things. We both know that it is very difficult to follow another car, even with, cars that aren't heavily aero affected. And we also know that it's a circuit where when you do get that move pulled off, you find it extremely difficult to hold that move for the majority of the lap. So, when we look forward now, obviously, as we move into qualifying, we look at this qualifying. How important do you think that's going to be?
Well, I mean, you need to have that position going into turn 1. You want to try and be ahead of somebody into turn 1, hope they back out. It's a corner where you've got the runoff on the exit, but we've seen in practice qualifying, even in the race earlier in the academy, that these curbs, the cars on the exit don't like riding them that hard, so especially at turn 1 and at the exit of Spoon, and it just sucks the car off to the right or to the left, whichever way you've gone, and also getting the traction down in these high torque FSR 2021 cars as we go on board with Jan Vosnitzer coming up through towards the famous Spoon curve where you barely brake. Don't try to overtake there because you're just going to cause a crash. Don't want to hit the curb on the exit there because that will pull you off. Here it's a little bit better. Just straddle it onto that AstroTurf and then up the hill, over the flyover, past the support paddock, and then 130R, which is easy flat. We saw, I think it was Adam Rainey tried to go up the inside of here in the previous race. It didn't go well for him. And then hard on the brakes where we saw that famous clash in 1989 and then get the power down on the other side. With a bit of a kick of oversteer there from the Nerex driver. And then across the line, that should put him in a decent position. It is third position. Cameron Roger there has the fastest overall final sector. That's a big lap from him. Tom Alderman, Cass Revel, Cameron Roger. We've got a Burst Esports 1, 2, 3. With about 6 minutes and 20 remaining in the session, as I say that.
You might want to take that one back.
Take that one back, as Noah Roivers, to the shock of literally nobody, has now gone top of the table.
I was going to say a 1, 2, 3 at the time for Burst. It's what they need as well. If they want to have any slim hope of bringing any sort of team's championship points home, to even shorten that gap that there is to Nerex, they need to be doing it now. And of course, they need to be supporting Oldermenger as best they can because he is the only non-Nerex driver left in this contention for the title fight in the Pro Championship. Everyone else in the top 4 is a Nerex, whereas, he's the only Burst car that isn't a Nerex. Well, yeah, obviously.
I'm just looking at the standings now. I print them out before every race, so I've got them to hand. Royver's currently top on 183 points. Vosnitzer is behind on 138, so that's a difference of 45. Tom Oldenmenger is on 135. He had a bad result at the Belgian Grand Prix. He basically mistimed a toilet break and ended up having to start from the pit lane. But he managed to claw his way back to score 6 points. But crucially, Vosnitzer won that race. That was actually his second win in a row. So Vosnitzer leapfrogged Oldenmenger in the standings, and then Ivan Leonov on 119. So those are your top 4. Those are your championship contenders. But considering that Roivers has only finished off the podium just once this season, and that was at the abandoned British Grand Prix, he's probably the bookie's favourite at the minute. I mean, if you were able to put bets on this, I don't think you can actually go down to Paddy Power and put a bet on it, but it's the safe man would be putting bets on Noah Roivers to win this, especially given his brilliant run in the new rFactor 2 GT Challenge race on Wednesday evening, where there's a lot of FSR drivers in that. Jumping between that car and this car, you see Oldenmenger lobbing it left and right through the S's at the start of the lap, trying to get as much bite on that front end as possible, because you need it through there, run it out to the outside, and then you've got the tricky Degners just up ahead. The first one, it's lob it in, drop a gear, hit the curb, but not too hard, otherwise you'll go off, and then try and utilise as much of that green runoff as you can without picking up a track cut. And this is a track where track cuts can happen, particularly at the chicane and on the tarmac runoff going out of turn 1 and that second Degner.
Yeah, indeed. And actually, just going on to the point about Tom, he was pretty confident coming into this race as well. Have my normal chats I do with some of the guys, and he was pretty confident. One of his better circuits, one of his more enjoyed circuits to drive. So, looking good. Here is the title contender, and he's currently up on his personal best lap so far. Not in the middle sector though, so we'll see what he can do through 130R into the chicane. Lobs it over the curb as much as he dares, avoiding those immaculately placed anti-cuts, which can quite happily send the car even further airborne. Out of the final corner and across the line, it is a purple final sector, but it's not going to be enough to improve. And, well, hello, I see an Adam Rainey in the top 2 here, Aidan.
Yeah, he's joining this race as well, having just done the academy race, which didn't go particularly well for him. It had an absolutely awful start, dropped from like 2nd to 7th by turn 1, and then was just too aggressive coming back through the field and had a half spin at the 130R, which is what we mentioned earlier. But Vosnitzer brings the car in to get some fresh rubber on and try and have another attack. But Roivers here, green in the second sector, just coming through the 130R, hammers the brakes, absolutely hammers the curbs as well. You can take quite a lot. The curbs don't unsettle the car that much at the slow speeds. These sort of ground effect type cars. And then he brings it across the line, hugging that pit wall. It's green in the final sector as well. It's a 127.3. Just 0.62 ahead of Adam Rainey in the sister car.
Yeah, it'd be impressive to see what Rainey can actually do as well. It might be one of the first times that we've seen Noah Roivers, off the top step. We've seen him, off of pole before, but especially at a track here like Suzuka, where we know that he is very strong, as Chris Gitsov does. His lap goes 16th. Another driver to mention, David Koloksai in the Royal Blue Racing car in the top 5. Great to see as well. The top 5, surprisingly free of net wrecks this round, Aidan, and it's a refreshing sight to say the least.
Yeah, I think it just certain tracks suit certain drivers. I mean, we've got Cameron Roger up there in 6th. Usually, he's around Matt Tucson back there in about 17th, 16th place. And bless you, I don't know if that got picked up by the microphone, but okay. But saying that, David Kaloksai, 5th in the standings with 83 points, so he's quite far up there. And as we see, Adam Rainey throw his Brem GP car into the 130R and then get on the brakes. Nice and clean over the curb. Get the traction down. Try not to kick that rear end out going on board as he comes across the line. Doesn't hug the wall like some of these other drivers, probably because he's on his out lap. Well done, Aidan. But see what he does into turn 1. Just slowly brings the gears down and then gets it all hooked up for the second part. And up again through the gears, and it's a left, and then a right, and then a left, and then a right, and then another left. So you've got to try and manage your tyre life through here. the scene of a particularly nasty accident in 2014. That corner's just come through. And let's see what happens through the degglers. Maybe some of these drivers have tried to go too hot through some of these corners and mess their laps up because there's virtually no margin for error here.
Yeah, indeed. Coming out of second degler, it is very, very, like the track cut is so tight as the rear end comes out. Don't think that'll be an improvement because of that. We'll see though. It might be up enough to, you know, keep that lap going decently. Of course, he only needs 600ths of a second, so, you know, it's easily found around here. You know, one slight little change of line can gift you quite a bit of time around here. Makes his way over the bridge underneath us is the straightaway on the exit of the second degler.
Oldermanga fastest middle sector.
Not great. Very fair point. Tom Oldermanga over the curve. Rainey goes round. Here's Oldermanga. Will he be able to take pole here for, I believe, the first time in the Pro Championship?
No.
No, it's not enough.
And who's this? We're watching now. This is Noah Roivers. I think he's he's safe. The guys behind him are not going to do any damage to that. Rietveld slower, Roger in the pit lane, Thomas Vac slower, everybody else more nice. So I think Roivers is just going for one last YOLO lap to basically say, this is mine, I'm fastest. But he's slower in the first two sectors, so he might as well finish it. Or he could abandon it, depends on how much he was down, because we don't see how much slower he was on this live timing. But if he was like probably about like 0.001 down or something like that. But anyway, he's coming across the line here, and no, he doesn't go fastest. So Roivers on pole position, Rainey second, Vozitzer third, Rietveld, Oldermanga, Vak, Ivanov, Kanaksai, Leonov, and then Cameron Roger down in 11th after that initial opening gambit that he played. But still, top 10, top 11, just over 3.5 tenths between us. So very, very close qualifying session. So here is your official grid. Noah Roivers on pole with a 127.3. Adam Rainey in second place, sharing that front row as he did in the Academy race earlier. Jan Vozitzer third, brilliant outing for him. And then Cas Rietveld, Tom Oldermanga in fourth and fifth. Thomas Vac for HM Engineering in sixth. Victor Ivanov for Netrex. Then David Kalaksai for Royal Blue in eighth. Ivan Leonov in ninth. Jukka Lalu rounds out the top 10. And then moving a tiny bit further down, Cameron Roger in 11th, brilliant qualifying for him. I think that might be his best qualifying of the season so far, ahead of Simon Frelick in 12th for Royal Blue, George Chatspantalis for Brem in 13th, then Stoyan Barbakov in 14th for Royal Blue, Alvaro Torres for Brem in 15th, then Chris Gitsoff, a driver we haven't seen anything of this season, I don't think. He's not showing on my championship standings here, for Vale eSports in 16th, so you know, to be there, not on the back row, probably be very happy with that. And then Matt Tucson and Arif Roslan for Invictus Motorsport, bringing up the rear. Arif Roslan not setting a lap at all, so I think that might actually be a pit lane start if he hasn't set a lap. I haven't got it on my notes at all, but we'll see what happens there. But there's your 18 runners, and we've got a race ahead of you, I think, after we've had a quick track guide from Mr. Michi Hoyer.
This is Formula SimRacing. My name is Michi Hoyer. Welcome, guys, to round 10 of the Formula SimRacing 2021 series. We are in Japan. We are at Matsusaka for the Matsusaka Grand Prix, and I am delighted to take you around for the presentation lap on this fascinating circuit. Coming down the hill across the line to start our line lap into turn 1. Pretty good overtaking opportunity as we drove right through 1 into 2, and then right ahead of us, the S's. Very important to have good rear end, have a chassis that likes direction and elevation changes. Forward of the S's, and then turn 7, bravery corner up the hill, going into nowhere. Car needs to stick down, needs to be really good in direction changes. Then Deckner 1 and Deckner 2, two really fast right-handers, and below the bridge, one of the circuits that's got a bridge because it's a kind of 8-figure. And we go into the hairpin, the slowest point on the circuit. Traction ever so important as we're coming into a bank straight to a right-hand king that goes into a double apex spin corner. Very technical and difficult. corners. You want to stay on the inside of the curb all the time. Car becomes a bit loose on the exit as you're going down the hill, losing the downforce on the rear. And then bravery corner, 130R, flat out whatsoever, 300 kph, and then best overtaking possibility here. Heavy braking zone into the car zero triangle. Traction always ever so important. You see the rear end wants to go all the time. So how will drivers manage the rear end down the hill for the entire race? We will find out right now.
Thanks as always, Mitchie, for that little track guide, and we are getting ready now for the 42 laps of the Matsusaka circuit here in Japan for the FSR Pro Championship Round 10 of the season, with just 2 rounds remaining. My name's Aidan Millward, joining me is Alex Skinner for this race, and the race brought to you as always by 3D Wrap, Masita Esports, and also SimLab. So, looking forward to what's going on. The warm-up is just coming to an end, and we can just get a quick rundown of the championship standings before we go into things, just to see where everybody stands. We've got Noah Roivers pretty much in control at the top. He's got a 45-point lead to his teammate Jan Vosnitzer at the moment, and if Noah Roivers can keep up his championship performance, just as a reminder of that, he has only finished off the podium once all season, scored at every point, every race at some point this season. And Tom Aldermenger also there in the running with 135 points. A bit of a long shot. He'd need Roivers and Vosnitzer to have a few mares of races, and then Ivan Leonov as well, also mathematically in with a chance. Probably not realistically, but still mathematically in with a chance. So those top 4 pretty much controlling the season thus far. And you can see that Alvaro Torres, Yukabeka Lalu, and the rest of the top 10 in the standings there as well. So drivers bagging points left, right, and centre. Points all the way down to 15th in this division. And the World Championship, as you'll find out later on, only has points down to the down to 10th position, as you'd find in real life. And the formation lap has just begun, so we can get a quick rundown of the grid, a reminder of who's sitting where. Got Noah Roivers up there on pole position, followed by Adam Rainey, who is doing double duty today. Hopefully his race will go better this time round. Jan Vosnitzer takes 3rd for Netrex. Then Cass Rietveld, a brilliant qualifying for him for Burst Simplex the Esports. He's in 4th. I mean, Burst Esports in general having a great run. Tom Aldermenger takes 5th for Burst Simplexity, followed by Thomas Vak for HM Engineering. Victor Ivanov in 7th for Netrex. David Kalaksai for Royal Blue, he takes the 4th row in 8th. Ivan Leonov will be 9th. Yukabeka Lalu for Royal Blue, he'll start 10th. Cameron Roger in number 57, he'll start 11th. I think that might be his best qualifying of the season. Followed by Simon Frelich and then George Chatzpentalis for Brem in 13th. Stoyan Barbakov in 14th. The mid-pack going to be very, very careful into turn 1, you'd expect. And Alvaro Torres there in 15th. Chris Gitsov making his debut in this division, he's in 16th. And then Matt Tucson and Arif Roslan bringing up the rear for Invictus. So if anything happens at turn 1, those two should be able to pick up some positions. The field's just making its way up the hill now towards the spoon curve, as they're just trying to find out where the bite is off the car, trying to keep some heat in the tyres without mullering them too much. So I want as much grip as possible to go through the opening sector. A little bit of weaving from a couple of the drivers just to get that temperature up. Drag the brakes, get some heat into the brakes, make sure the thing's completely ready to go. Yeah, make sure you turn your magic switch off and all that stuff. Coming up to the 130R here. That's a great shot there, showing the cars just snaking their way through. 130R, another place where big accidents can happen, where track limit infringements can be picked up if you're trying to go side by side through there. And then Noah Roivers leads the pack through the chicane. The right hand are very, very tight, but the left hand are slightly more open. Makes it a bit easier to get the power down, but only marginally, and then brings things round, and then he'll take his position on the right hand side of your screen. Adam Rainey doing the same thing he tried in the previous race, pointing the car inwards to make sure he takes that racing line where it's a bit cleaner. We hear stories about dirty sides of grids here at Matsusaka from the past, around 1990. Drivers trying to get their cars in position and the 2 Invictus cars at the back. And when they've taken their spots on the grid, the 5 red lights will come on. There'll be a slight pause, and then we'll be away here at Matsusaka. So making sure everybody's in position. And then we'll hear the hooters, traditional, in rFactor 2. And here we go. There's the first light, the second, the third, the fourth, and then the fifth. Here's the pause, and away we go at Matsusaka. It looks like Adam Rainey's had another poor start. Second race in a row. Noah Royver's just weaving, trying to block his teammate Jan Vozitsa, but they're side by side through turn 1. It looks like it's all very, very clean. Looking at the standings on my other screen, Chats Pantalis has dropped a couple of positions, but everybody's got through. Looks like everybody is fine. No death at turn 1. Arif Roslan, Matt Tucson just swapping positions at the back, but Noah Royves leads the pack through the first few corners as we see Cameron Roger fighting with Ivan Leonov at the S's, trying to get up a couple of positions, but he's managed to get a better exit as we now cut to Vozitsa and Roivers going through the 2 Degners, and now everything seems to settle down just a little bit now that everybody's found their positions.
Yeah, horrendous starts from Rainey and Roger, both dropping at least 5 places each. Horrendous, like Cameron's gone down to 13th. He must be nursing some form of problem here, Aidan, because he has dropped an almighty places. And just looking now as well, Thomas Vogt up to P4, bring it down to 5th, Kaloxai 6th, and well, you know, the two Netrex Novs of Ivanov and Leonov are 7th and 9th. They're a lot lower down than we usually expect to see them at the end of lap 1.
Well, Cameron Rogers started around sort of 10th, 11th, so he hasn't dropped that far down, but he was in 11th going through the S's. I think he might have just been bumped or made a mistake or something and then dropped those other couple of positions. But you can see what tyres they're running there on the timing screen as well. It's like the Indy 500 here, the way they're snaking, trying to break that slipstream. Who's that going around the outside of turn 1? Was that Rietveld on Vak or something like that? That was
Oldemenger on
Vak, sorry. That's a brave move to be making on lap 2 of a race. You know, we've seen drivers try to go into fast corners in real life like that, and it's not ended very well. So, you know, take a deep breath before you try those moves in this series. As Matt Tucson is in the pits already, so maybe getting some damage fixed for that. But you can see, like I was saying, there's cars on the hard tyres there. So Leonov, Lalu, Freilich, Ivanov, Torres, Roslan, and Gitsov, and that's who's that? That's Rainey, not having fun this afternoon. We'll probably get a replay of that maybe he was trying to be too aggressive, trying to get back through the pack again. But we'll save any speculation for the replay, which is now here. Thank you, Felix, as this is trying to go through. Oh, how is he kept
he almost held it
out
as
the wall?
Well.
So who was that stacked it ahead of him?
Oh, that was Viktor Ivanov.
Ivanov dropped it on the curb. Oh, that's his. Oof. Gets the thing off to the gravel. It's probably the safest place for it to end up. You know, usually in sim racing we say lock your brakes when you've had that kind of thing, but it got it out of the way. But Adam Rainey managed to almost keep that alive, so that one wasn't his own doing. So that's luck goes from bad to worse for Adam Rainey here today. Kats Rietveld in 3rd position, having many fun up there at the minute. Tomasz Vak in 4th, and now we look at Cameron Roger stalking Stoyan Barbakov. He's up to 11th position. Already grabbed a couple of positions from the crash that happened between Rainey and Ivanov, so he's back sort of where he started, and he's still kept it on the track. So good work. And here's the start. Adam Rainey, does he bog or does he just light the rear tyres up? We'll find out in a second. And away they go. Yeah, getting absolutely swamped into turn 1, almost put a driver in the grass. Maybe a tiny bit of contact there as well on the back of the Royal Blue car, but still nobody went off. And well, I say nobody went off. Matt Tucson did end up going into the pit lane at the end of lap 1, so assuming damage of some description on that Invictus Motorsport car. Following with Kas Rietveld. Now Roivers Vozitsa 1-2, then Rietveld, Vak, Oldenmenger, Kalaksai, Leonov, Chatsmantalis, Lalu, Barbakov. Your top 10 as they come round to finish lap 3. We've got 3 cars running in a small train here. That's Oldenmenger, Kalaksai, and Vak. trying to break the slipstream. No DRS on these cars, remember, compared to last year. And also no engine mixes either, so you've got to get past the old-fashioned way as they start lap 4 and come through the S's. So not much dirty air coming off the back of these cars this year.
Yeah. No, indeed. I was seeing Oldermenger looking very, very feisty towards the inside of turn 1. I was having flashbacks to Lasarte, where we had about 10 minutes of us, basically clenching, hoping nothing would go wrong. Because seeing Oldermenger nearly dive it down the inside of turn 1 had me pretty much hoping that nothing would go wrong. Although he is only half a second back now as we make it towards the hairpin. Still waiting to see someone do a Kobayashi-esque dive into the hairpin, Aidan. Wouldn't be surprised if one of the drivers did that. We do also have our first retirement. Arif Roslan is out of this race for Invictus. Not too sure what has happened to him, but he was running down towards the field. So not much lost for Invictus, but a shame nonetheless, because of course we do know they're a team that will pick up points if things.
Yes, Arif Roslan out of the race. Apologies for what's happening with my co-commentator. I think the internet might be on the fritz again. But Arif Roslan out of the race, and I do agree with Alex about the dive bombs and things like that. Kobayashi, Senna, drivers like that sending moves, pulling them off, not pulling them off, things like that. And we see Oldermenger, Kalaksai, and Vuk still running line astern through Sector 1. We'll probably try and get a replay of what happened to Roslan. And maybe it was a gear failure, software failure, or maybe just a crash. Not particularly sure. But no, Royver still leads the race by about 8/10 of a second, 8.5 of a second. They've got about a second and a bit to Kasriveld in third, so it looks like Netrex have got the car set up perfectly for this. Here's the replay of Arif Roslan. This is turn 2 or turn 1, depending on how you class those opening. That's. Yep, that's an F. I think that's a bit of a case of disco fever by the looks of things. So, first retirement, Arif Roslan at the end of lap 3. Well, here's lap 3. We're now on lap 5. Seeing this little train still stabilising, but it looks like they're starting to gap Kalaksai in the Royal Blue car. Oldermenger closing up a lot on the brakes. He may be able to try and get something down the start-finish straight, but he's had a bad exit of the chicane, so that's going to put an end to that charge unless he's got enough on the straight to get by. No, the slipstream here isn't as powerful as we saw last time out at Spa, where he could be within sort of 6/10 or so and still have the opportunity to make a move into Lake-On. This is Stoyan Barbakov going through turn 1. He's got Cameron Roger up his back bottom here, and then in turn they are chasing Barbakov's teammate Jukka-Pekka Laulu. So the Finn up there in 9th, Barbakov 10th, Roger 11th. Rainey's in 12th and still struggling. He's about 2 seconds back on this. His tyres probably a bit second hand after that half spin. A great shot of the cars coming out of sort of turn 5, turn 6 towards Degner 1, hitting curbs and still having the faith that the car will still be pointing in the right direction by the time it enters the braking zone for Degner 2. Up towards the hairpin. Heavy braking zone, overtaking opportunity, but only if you're alongside the car that you're fighting with. And we've seen many dive bombs across all sims and all categories over the years, so very difficult to overtake here. There's only really one overtaking opportunity, and that is the chicane, provided that you've got the run, and hopefully the guy will get out the way. On board with El Presidente Cameron Roger in the number 57 Burst eSports car. Coming up to 130R, so it looks like Barbakov and Lalu have gapped him ever so slightly. Lalu on the hard tyres, so he'll have that life, but he won't have that performance. And it looks like Barbakov might be in a position to make a move into turn 1 here, so let's have a look. Nope, not close enough by the looks of things. As they enter turn 1 at the start of lap 7. Just seeing what else is going on. We've got Simon Freilich, Adam Rainey. I mean, Adam Rainey's actually closed another half a second on that lap to Cameron Rogers. So Rainey despite maybe having a bit of flat spottage on his tyres, is still absolutely flying out there. So he'll be on the back of Cameron Roger in the next lap, maybe lap and a half, but Roivers and Vosnitzer still separated by nearly a second. Vosnitzer in control thus far. Vosnitzer following. They've got they've got another 2 seconds to Casrieveld in third. So Netrex really pulling away. They're basically stamping their authority on this season. They've been by far the best team all season. I mean, look at the championship standings. Roivers first, second, first, 15th at Silverstone, then first, second, third. Vosnitzer 6th, 4th, third, second, first, then 2 non-finishes at Indianapolis and Azure, and then 2 wins. So those two doing quite a lot. And then just checking the team's standings while we're here. Netrex are 183 points ahead in that. They've got 389 points to burst Simplexity. I've just had it in my ear from Felix van Delft that Netrex have basically sewn up that championship, and I don't blame them. Between their 4 drivers of Roivers, Vosnitzer, Leonov, and Ivanov, which we joke about every single race about the simulation between those names. But here's Jukka-Pekka Laulu following Stoyan Barbakov. So Barbakov has now got ahead of the Finn. Barbakov is 8th, Laulu down to 9th. Probably because of those hard tyres he's got, the performance just isn't there. And then in the background, that was Cameron Roger being chased by Adam Rainey. And here's a replay of how Barbakov got past Laulu, coming down the start-finish straight, and that's going to be easy as you like into turn 1. I think Lalu might have just backed out of that to let him go, knowing that he was faster. So good team play from those two. And then you can see Adam Rainey half a second now up behind Cameron Roger, just closing up so much on the brakes. We know how fast Adam Rainey is. Hopefully he's learned his lesson from last time out, being too aggressive, resulting in a half spin at the 130R, and just kept it out of the wall. Let's see how much he can close up through the first part of Spoon, and then maybe in the second part of Spoon. And then a kick of oversteer from Cameron there as they come up over the flyover past the support pit lane, and then into 130R. See, Rainey has a sniff, but he's not trying the move. Oh, they're both going off onto the curb, and that's going to affect Rainey's launch into the chicane. They both messed that up, but maybe into turn 1, Rainey will just sail on by as they go there. We'll see what happens here. Car's closing. Now, the car just doesn't have that straight line speed by the looks of things, so it looks like that car is definitely set up for the twistier parts of this track. Lap 9 of 42 now. Expecting pit stops to be happening probably in the next sort of 4 or 5 laps here. Expecting, as we usually do, 2 stops. Leonov also out of the race. So how did that happen, maybe? We know Roslan had a bit of disco fever. Leonov out completely, so that's not going to help Netrex at all. So we'll try and get a replay of what happened there. As we have, here's the replay. So Leonov coming into the chicane here, overcooks it slightly, gets it back under control. Does he lose it on power? No. And disco fever by the looks of it. So that's 2 drivers we've lost now to internet-related issues. It appears we've also lost a commentator to internet-related issues. I'm getting joined by Felix, my favourite. This is why you're my favourite.
Tom Oldermenger looking feisty now on Thomas Wack.
Yeah, so this is coming through the S's. Oldermenger half a second behind Vak. Vak's driving out of his skin at the minute. He's kept it there in 4th place. And Oldermenger sort of struggling to get through that sort of S-bendage part of the track. Closes right up through the 2 Degners though, so it looks like he's got something on the brakes that Vak doesn't. But David Kalaksai is joining in this as well, so he's caught right at the back. A little bit of, well, I mean, we're in Japan, why not? A bit of Toog and a bit of initial D going through the hairpin, and that's going to allow David Kalaksai to maybe sweep around the outside, but it looks like the Burst Esports car has got the straight line speed it needs. And then into the Spoon curve, David Kalexai having to sort of live to fight another day, but he's sort of lost that momentum now with a couple of mistakes through that corner.
Yeah, interesting send up the inside of the hairpin there, but wasn't able to make it stick. He'll be looking to get past him perhaps on the straight, but I think Oldermenger does have that top speed. Also still has a little bit of slipstream from Wak in front of him. Kalexai keeping the pressure on though. That's a good thing. Pit stop's probably going to be coming in the next 3 to 4 laps. I think we saw the longest stint in the Academy series being about 15-16 laps. So probably won't be seeing much longer than that here in the Pro Series as well.
Yeah, just a reminder of the tyre rules. And here's Adam Rainey still stuck behind Cameron Roger. That's surprising. Maybe his tyres are past their use-by date, but yeah, the tyre rules are that the guys racing here today have to use the soft tyre and they have to use the hard tyre. So similar to top-level open-wheeler rules in real life. But I am surprised that Rainey is struggling to get past Cam at this point. Maybe while he's got the pace through this middle sector where it's all very twisty, Cameron's got the straight line speed needed to get from Spoon to 130R in the chicane and down the pit straight, and that's stopping Rainey from getting by in a middle sector that is so difficult to overtake at.
Yep. Yeah, we saw that as well in the last Academy race. Just didn't really have the top speed to get past drivers. He could close up to them, but didn't really get past them easily. So he's really going to have to set himself up for a good exit. Hope for maybe a slight mistake from Cameron in front of him. And Rovers and Woznica are going at it a little bit, weaving. Yeah. Woznica closing in, but just about 2-3 tenths too far behind, coming out of the final corner to challenge Rovers coming into turn 1. Oldermenger and Wak also still very close. Kalexai is starting to drop back a little bit further, but same thing applies here really. Oldermenger really needs about 2-3 tenths to get past Wak. He doesn't quite have the ability to find it just yet.
Yeah, this is the point where these soft tyres will start to lose grip. So getting the power down will be harder. Getting the car stopped will be harder. Getting the car turned in will probably be even harder still. So they've just got to hang on probably 2 or more laps. Get that tank run down so they have a lighter car when they come out of the pits to keep the pace up. Sure, you'll know all about that, Felix, having raced in the in Formula Challenge the other night, trying to get the fuel down and trying to keep the pace up in that absolute monster of a car. And these guys have been doing it all season, so they probably know a lot about these cars and what makes them tick and how best to utilise the setups and utilise the strategy in them. As Adam Rainey still stuck behind Roger, using all the curb on the exit of Spoon. But it looks like I say, that Burst eSports car has got that straight line advantage.
Yeah, definitely seems so indeed. Also Cameron now closing into Jukka-Pekka Lalo. And that will be helping Cameron on straight line speed even more, of course. Having that slipstream from the Royal Blue racing car in front as Adam Rainey comes into the pit lane. Had a fairly early stop as well in the Academy series, just about 1.5 hours ago. And decides to do one of the first stops here as well, together with a few other drivers. Tom Oldermenger, Simon Frelick also in. Trying to get an undercut on Cameron, of course. I think he's got a good possibility to do so. Made that happen in the Academy series as well. Let's see where he rejoins though. He needs a little bit of clean air to be able to do that, and he definitely has that. So it's crunch time for him now. Use these fresh soft tires to their advantage to get to the end of this, or get some good pace out of these tires in the first few laps, and hopefully undercut Cameron.
Yeah, it's one of the few tracks where the pit lane basically follows a straight line along the pit straight rather than sort of entering at a slow corner or exiting after a corner like you see a lot of other tracks. Let's see what the undercut is like here, because it's a very, very fast start-finish straight at Matsusaka. Barbakov chasing Chuck Spantalis Brem GP car. My brain got scrambled, and maybe they'll be making a pit stop as Jan Vosnitzer is in the pit lane, maybe trying to undercut his teammate Noah Roivers here. A few drivers in the pit lane: Cash Rietveld, Thomas Vark, Jan Vosnitzer. I say a few, it's just those three. Noah Roivers maintains the lead at the front. Kalaksai about 8.5 behind, or just over 9 behind now. Chatspantalis in third, Barbakov fourth, Yuka Bekalali fifth, Roger up to sixth, and we're on board with El Presidente right now as he is chasing Yuka Bekalali, and Barbakov and Chatspantalis running very, very close together, about half a second between them, just trying to get the car to the pit stop. That was aggressive from Barbakov over that first Degner curb, and then sort of less aggressive on the exit. You see cars running to varying degrees of wide out of there, and then into the hairpin. Looks like Barbakov got a better exit out of the corner that time compared to Chatspantalis, so more life in the rear tyres of the Royal Blue car up towards Spoon, and then maybe some slipstream action up the straight towards 130R. And if Barbakov is close enough, maybe you can try and put a move into that corner and hopefully not cause an accident. Doesn't look like he's close enough though, just holding there, maybe save a bit of fuel in the slipstream. Maybe not enough to go for the lap, but he's had a sniff into the chicane, not close enough. He'd have to be very brave to try a dive bomb into there. But will he take it to the pit lane? No, but Chatspantalis does take to the pit lane. Barbakov will go around again. Roivers in the pit lane, so he'll drop down to about third, fourth behind Roger. He's going to come out in clean air. Maybe. Let's see where. Oh no, he's going to come out behind his teammate Vosnitzer. That hasn't worked well for Roivers, but it's worked very well for Vosnitzer. He inherits the lead, but Roivers is still on the soft tyres, hasn't taken the hards yet, but Vosnitzer is on the hards to get those out of the way. So interesting strategy here from Netrex to get their drivers up. Looks like they're on alternate strategies here.
Looks like that indeed, or at least for this stint, Bosnica having those hard tires and in front of Rovers really helps him, because if you can keep Rovers behind him in this stint, that will hamper Rovers' soft stint quite heavily. Rovers, of course, will have to take those hard tires in the next stint towards the end of the race, and then Bosnica will be able to take the soft tires himself. And if he's able to stay in front during this pit stop cycle and also gets out in front in the next pit stop cycle, he really puts himself on that pole position for the winner today. But of course, that all is still in the future. He still has to keep Rovers behind first to make that happen. Rovers will be trying his best and take the advantage of the grip of these soft tires, of course, to try and get past him as soon as possible.
He might be close enough for a move into the chicane. No, backs out of it. But there's still the start-finish straight. A bit of a wobble from both drivers there as they try to come out the chicane. Will Roivers be close enough to make a move into turn one? Oh yeah, he's going to be plenty close enough. Look at that. He's straight past by the end of the first lap out of the pit lane, so not too much time lost on those tyres. That understeering to the spoon curve might be a bit of a worry for him, but that will be a bigger worry for him as he almost misses turn 2 entirely as Cameron Roger enters the pit lane just in behind Stoyan Barbakov here, and Adam Rainey up to 7th as a result of that pit stop he made earlier. So he's managed to undercut Cameron, and well, he's actually on older tyres, so he'll be pitting before Cameron does again. But Cameron chasing George Chatspantalis here, almost on the back of the Brem GP car immediately. So there's several drivers. I think all the drivers now have made their first stop. Matt Tucson at the back had closed up to Chris Gitzov, but then the pit stop will have sent him backwards again after what happened on, I think it was on lap 1, where he either went off or he hit something or whatever, but he's not having a lot of fun out there. But one more DNF from a driver, and Matt Tucson scores a point, assuming he finishes. Like I say, the top 15 in this race score points, and we've had a low attendance rate for the last couple of rounds, but still a decent sized grid. We've had about 18, 19 drivers as opposed to like the 24, 25 that we had at the beginning of the season. So other series opening up, people drop out and things like that. But we've still had the usual suspects, the sort of what you call name drivers throughout the season, as Roger has a look at the back of the Brem GP car and still chasing Stoyan Barbakov there. These three cars separated by less than a second, so they come up to the start-finish straight. Bit of weaving there from Chatsmentalis to break the slipstream. It looks like Cameron might have it into turn 1. He sticks it up the inside. No understeer. Getting very close. Oh, Cameron's lost the rear end and almost takes out Chatsmentalis and takes himself out. And Chatsmentalis. GG.
Yeah, just had that wiggle in turn 1. And I'm not sure exactly what happened after that. Maybe a bit of contact. Let's have a look at the replay from the onboard of Cameron. But it was already very close to the limit in turn 1. Seemed like he had turned on.
He was ahead, but then lost the lead.
Up and then understeered wide because of that into Chatsmentalis' rear tire. Sends them both off the track.
I love how he stuck it into reverse while he was going backwards to flick the car around. It's some advanced driving courses he must have been taking, but he's into 11th.
He's got plenty of experience.
Yeah, he's had the. I mean, he runs the series, so he's just like, well, I'm having that position. I'm not giving that back to you. So he's carrying on up to 11th, but tyres are going to be a bit wrecked now after just one lap. And now he's chasing down Simon Frelick for 10th position. We'll just have a look at the old drivers' standings here. I'm going to have to go right down to the bottom. Currently 21st in the series with 15 points. Best result of 10th. That was at San Marino. No, it wasn't. It was at Portugal. He didn't finish at San Marino, so he scored some points. And chasing more by the looks of things. He's actually up into 10th now, so he's got about 1 point to Yuka Pelalalu in front, as we see Chatsmentalis, Ivanov, and Alvaro Torres here. Torres goes a bit deep into turn 1. That's Ustalis died at the background. Simon Frelick off. So that's not good. I think he may have hit that exit curb at turn 1, and that's sent him off. But we'll try and get a replay of that. It's usually the case. It happens in virtually every car that you drive here. So the cars in rFactor 2 don't like the curbs on the exit of that corner. So here's Simon Frelick coming up to turn 1. And it's that exit curb, and just keeps it out the wall. So a bit of rallycross, and then carries along on his way, but he's dropped down to 14th now. Roivers has 2.2 to Vosnitzer behind now, so those soft tyres definitely working well for him. While Vosnitzer is being chased by Cas Rietveld, about a second between those two. 1.2 seconds further back is Tom Oldermenger. Oldermenger trying to make it a bit more ground to sort of keep in the championship hunt, but as it stands, it's definitely Vosnitzer who will outscore Oldermenger here today. Roivers at the front, so that will be another 25 points for Roivers. Yeah,
if he wins, as far as I know, he should take the championship.
Okay.
Because he would, he has a 45-point lead now. There's 2 races left, so that's 25 points each. So if he has a 50-point lead, it would be split if Bosniga would win both races and Rovers DNFs both races. So then it would be on the same amount of points. However, Noah Rovers, if he wins today's race, would have won 6 races. So far, Bosniga has only won 3, so he wouldn't be able to match.
So he'd be 6 to 5 at the end. So, okay, so Rovers, as it stands, is your 2021 Pro Series champion. So we'll probably be announcing that come the end of the race. But like I say, only finishing off the podium once at Silverstone this year. On the podium every race so far. His actual Silverstone excluded, his worst result is 3rd, and that was last time out at Spa. So basically been controlling this season and then some, as we see Vosnitzer hammer the curbs at the chicane, while Cas Rietveld is starting to slip slowly further back now.
Yep. Of course, there's still a bit to go for these drivers. 23 laps to go now. So we're nearing the halfway mark. I'm guessing second round of pit stop will come around lap 26-ish. Maybe a bit earlier, maybe a bit later, of course. Rovers and Bosniga on different strategies. Rovers still will need to take the hard tires. Bosniga will be going to the soft tires, I presume, in his final stint. Rietveld also still needs to take the hards, and the same for Oldenmenger. So I think Woznica is potentially in a good position, at least compared to Rietveld and Oldenmenger. They are, of course, starting to close into him, but I think as long as Woznica stays in front of them, and he'll rejoin in front of them after the pit stops on his soft tires, might be able to challenge Rover still for the win today, but it's not going to be an easy one.
Yeah, Rietveld having a bit of wobble on the exit of Spoon. It looks like Vosnitzer dropped a tiny bit to Roivers in the first part of the lap, so maybe a little mistake from Vosnitzer that Rietveld couldn't capitalise on. That gap now just over 3 seconds here, so all to play for behind Roivers at least. Rietveld, Oldenmenger still in a shout of getting both cars on the podium, as Oldenmenger still closing in on his teammate. Maybe Rietveld will let him go just to keep Oldenmenger in with a shot of the drivers, but like I said at the start of the show, it's mathematical, but well, for now at least, but a very, very long shot. He would need Roivers and Vosnitzer to retire and to win the remaining 3 races to take the championship here.
Yeah, effectively he would. Field starting to stretch out a little bit more now. Gaps equalizing. Closest battle is still this fight between Rietveld and Oldenmenger. I don't think they will be fighting each other too hard, like you said. I think they're just trying to get themselves closer and closer to Woznica and try and challenge him for that second podium position. And don't waste any time battling each other, at least not in this stage of the race. I'm sure that in the later stages, with a few laps to go, they're still in these positions, then Oldenmenger would love to at least try and get that podium. But for now, I would say get the attempt at Woznica first before you fight it out between the two of you. So, at the front, Woznica starting to drop back a little bit further. Pace starting to fall down for him on these hard tires. Maybe a bit surprising to see. You're 8 laps into this stint now, and Woznica starting to lose quite a bit of pace already. Gap dropped down to 3.5 seconds now. Rover's really being consistent on those soft tires, consistently below the 130. Woznica dropping into the 130s for a few laps now, so really needs to keep up the pace if he wants to stay in front of Rietveld and Oldenmenger. But I don't think his strategy is the worst call so far. Of course, we're gonna have to wait and see what he will do when he will come into the pit lane.
Yeah, it's interesting how Roivers is able to pull away so much on those soft tyres compared to Vosnitzer, as he does a tiny bit of weaving to try and stop Rietveld. Oldenmenger is still struggling to get past his teammates, so unless he's sitting there just to save a tiny bit of fuel. But with all but 3 of the drivers on the soft tyres, so Vosnitzer will be on the softs to the end, you'd think, and then everybody else that is currently on softs will be running softs towards the end, except those who haven't yet taken the hards, but those who started on the hards can run softs to the end because they've got that hard tyre ticked off. And we're on sort of lap 23 of 42, so we're over the halfway point now. So about 20 laps remaining. So your top 10 is Roivers, Vosnitzer, Rietveld, Oldenmenger, Vak, Kalaksai, Rainey, Lalu, Barbakov, Roger, Ivanov, who we're looking at now. I say top 10, that's actually the top 11, but still on board with Ivan Leonov as we head up over the crest towards Degna 1. And then it's Degner 2 as Ivanov tries to steal 10th position away from Cameron Roger, who is equaling his best performance all season right now.
Yeah, Ivanov still going strong, even though he had that incident in the first lap.
Or not.
Spoke too soon, and he instantly escapes the car there.
So that's good news for Matt Tucson. He will, assuming he finishes, score a point today.
Yeah, he will. Cameron has got some room to breathe now as well. Oldenmenger about half a second behind Rietveld now. Rietveld in his turn within a second of Woznica now, so Woznica really starting to drop back further and further into the clutches of these Burst eSports drivers.
That also shows how much that opening lap spin or whatever did to Matt Tucson. He still hasn't overtaken Ivanov yet. That's how far back he was because of a result of that. So probably wasn't even his own fault. Okay, now he's just overtaken him. So Tucson's still 14, 15 seconds off the back of Chris Gitsov here, who is managing to keep himself off the back position of this race in his pro debut. And Oldenmenger still sitting within half a second of Rietveld. As we're probably expecting, probably about another 2 or 3 laps before the next round of pit stops, Felix?
Yeah, I would guess so. So the first stops around lap 13. So I'm guessing around laps 26 would be the logical one to say, but every time you might try and make a prediction regarding that, they do something completely different. So
it's not like last season where we go, yep, the tyres will last this long. That's when they're pitting. But we've FSR had a shake-up of the rulebook for 2021. These new ground effect style cars that you may have seen in real life recently are being shown off as well, and bringing back refueling so that the cars can push harder on their sets of tyres without having to save them as well as the fuel. They can just burn the fuel, burn the tyres, and then pop some new fuel in, pop some new tyres on, and go from there. So you're not limited by the actual tyre life, you're limited by the fuel tank this year. But taking away the DRS and taking away the engine modes has helped the drivers as well. So it'll be interesting to see what we see for 2022 with Studio 397 sort of helping with the open wheel stuff more recently, and see where FSR goes for 2022. But now we concern ourselves with the 2021 season. As we said probably about 10 minutes, 15 minutes ago, Noah Roivers, as it stands, is your pro champion for 2021. He's currently 5 seconds to the good against his teammate Jan Vosnitzer, with Cas Rietveld and Tom Oldenmenger, who is on your screen right now, going through the spoon curve in 4th position. So just looking a bit further down as well, Thomas Vark having a great race in 5th for HM Engineering. David Kalexai for Royal Blue, he's in 6th. Adam Rainey has made his way back up to 7th, although he might be wondering what has happened to his day because he had a mare in the Academy race earlier. Here's Rietveld, you can just see Vosnitzer ahead, so it looks like Rietveld is catching up to the back of the pole in front. And it looks like Vosnitzer is not having fun on those hard tyres.
yeah, definitely seems to be struggling on them. Question is, does Rietveld have the top speed to get past Woznica? That's been a theme throughout the races on this track, throughout the entire day so far. If you don't really have the top speed to get past, it's going to be very difficult to do so. Especially if you pull out, we saw in the Academy series and also in the Pro series, if you just pull out and then it seems that the car just hits a brick wall of air and can't really get past any further. Slipstream is quite strong, but if you have those high wings compared to somebody that has really low wings, it's still going to be difficult to get past.
Yeah, it was quite interesting watching that in the Academy thing. It's like these cars just closing up at about 3 million miles an hour, and as soon as they pulled out, they just stopped, and the speed was just matched instantly, and drivers getting frustrated, and then you saw the silly moves being made into several corners, but still, we see Rietveld following his teammate. Well, sorry, I say Rietveld leading his teammate Oldenmenger. Oldenmenger's dropped off a tiny bit, but Rietveld's just inching his way closer to Vosnitzer, and maybe another 10th or so and he'll be right in that slipstream. A little bit better on the brakes into the chicane compared to Vosnitzer. Look how close he is now. That's not concertina effect. He has definitely closed up. But is that slipstream going to be powerful enough to pull that Burst eSports car in before turn 1 and maybe force a mistake out of Vosnitzer, as he's not having a lot of fun on those hard tyres, so his traction's not going to be as good as the softs. But no, looks like Rietveld can't get close enough through these twisty sections.
Yeah, softs also starting to get to the end of their life now. 13 laps being done on these tyres, and you can see Rietveld starting to struggle on the rears at least. So he's gonna have to be careful. I think we're probably gonna see the first drivers pitting in the next few laps, maybe already this lap. Vosnica, I guess, now starting to really arrive at that crossover point where the hard tires will be a bit better than the worn-out softs. Oldenmenger looking, of course, at his teammate in front of him, perhaps thinking, go on, go past, but for now he stays behind Rietveld.
Yeah, it looks like those softs on Rieveld's car are dead. He's now 8/10 behind Vosnitzer, as opposed to being the sort of 3 or 4 he was going into turn 1. Oldenmenger half a second in behind as well, so we'll see what happens on this lap. We're expecting the pit stops to happen, or start to happen. Nobody. Oh, yeah, there we go. Vosnitzer into the pit lane. He's going to be saying goodbye to those hards, and I bet he can't wait to get off those. Here's Thomas Vak. He's going round again. Kanaksai as well, by the looks of things. Just looking at my timing on my other screen here, it's just Vosnitzer in the pit lane so far. Maybe someone else will join him, but this is the thing with the tank on this car, is that with this race, you can take a short fuel at the start of the race, or you can take a short fuel at the end of the race for pace. And it's dependent on what they're doing. I mean, you could take the short fill in the middle as well, and then full tank towards the end, but it depends on what you want from your tyres at the end. So Vosnitzer leaves the pit lane in 9th place on a fresh set of softs. That leaves just 2 people on the hards currently, as Rainey and Freydick also enter the pit lane for their second stop of the day.
Yeah, he's got some free air as well, Vosnica, so you can push these tyres again in the start of his stint and perhaps get a bit of an undercut once again on Noah Rovers. Of course, Rovers had about a 5.5-6 second gap to Vosnica when he came into the pit lane, but the difference between, I think, these fresh soft tires and the worn-out soft tires will be quite significant. So Rovers surely will be covering him off in the next 1 or 2 laps. Let's see what he does.
You think he'd pit, because that's the way it went last time round.
Yep. Yeah,
and there we go.
He will be going onto the hard set of tires, of course, to the end of the race. 15 laps to go. 14 actually, as he crosses the pit lane, the start-finish line now. So a bit of a longer stint on the hard tires than I think Vosnica did. This is going to be crucial. Vosnica purple in the second sector, so he's been very fast on his outlap. But this is going to be enough to close down that gap entirely towards Noah Rovers. Rovers coming out of the pit lane there. No, so the gap's still there. Question will be what it is compared to Rietveld and Oldenmenger. Those two still in the same positions. Rietveld in front of Oldenmenger, but the gap to Vosnica has risen a little bit further. Both of them on the hard tires, so won't be expecting them to close in any more in the next few laps, at least maybe at the end of the stint a bit more. But for now, Vosnica should be having a lot more speed, and already the gap to Noah Rovers is about 2.5 seconds. So if you extrapolate the time that he lost to Rovers in his last stint, which was about 6 seconds, if he would gain 6 seconds on these tires to Rovers, then he would be about 3 seconds in front of him. Of course, he has to get past him. That's not going to be easy, I'm sure, because Rovers is going to fight this to the end, I think, because his championship is on the line. He can take it today, but he has to win.
Yeah, it looks like Vosnitzer grabbed probably about 2.5 seconds just on that outlap to Rovers. So the soft tyres versus the hards, quite pacey. The gap's now 2 seconds, or 2.1 as they go through the 130R here. So there's 12 laps remaining for Vosnitzer to catch up to Rovers. You know, we've seen drivers put on soft tyres in real life and absolutely annihilate the gaps to the guy ahead to take a position or even a race win, but it's a case of will those soft tyres hold on long enough and have enough pace for Vosnitzer to take the win. And once that crossover happens, it's just going to be very, very difficult for him. And now we look at Tom Aldermenger, still stuck behind his teammate Cas Rietveld, as they both pitted on the same lap, I think.
Yep.
Jasper Talis is currently in the pit lane, so Kalaxai, Roivers, well, Kalaxai's yet to pit, Roivers, then Vosnitzer, so that's Roivers Vosnitzer is your lead pack or lead duo at the minute, then Rietveld and Aldermenger as we go on board with the pole right now. Look how much he's pushing, using all the exit curb available and then some up towards the hairpin. Gap 1.7, 1.8 between the two as they go into the little hairpin here, and then up through the gears and then round over the crest of the hill towards Spoon. So it's going to be a tense finish. Kalaxai, once he pits, will sort of filter out kind of around sort of 5th, 6th place. So it's going to be Roivers and Vosnitzer, your lead duo, then Rietveld, Aldermenger, Vark, etc. So Chris Gitsov puts a set of the softs on. So towards the end, we're going to have Roivers, Rietveld, Aldermenger, Vark, Rainey, Roger and Chatspantalis on hards towards the end, and everybody else on the softs.
Woznica last lap. He gained, compared to Nora Rovers, about 4 tenths. So it's not gaining a whole lot every lap, but still gaining quite a bit. If he keeps on doing this, should be catching him in about 3-4 laps. Then of course he has to still get past him. Got 12 laps to do so. So I think it's definitely not over for Woznica yet.
It almost was.
He's definitely pushing hard, you can see that.
Absolutely taking every sort of the latest braking opportunity possible. As it looks like he's finding it hard to drive in a straight line as well, because he almost put it on the grass there as he comes into Spoon again, trying to stop the car from drifting too far wide. Roivers ahead, gap 1.3, so it's kind of slowed down a tiny bit again as those soft tyres start to lose life. They're sort of great for the first 2 or 3 laps, and then you'll get the initial drop off, and then more and more and more as the stint goes on. Rietveld 4.5 behind these two, so all being well, it'll be a Netrex 1-2, but which way around will it be? Will it be Roivers Vosnitzer, or will it be the other way around, as the gap is 1.2 as they cross the line? Aldermenger a little bit closer this time around, but we look at Jukapala Lalu chasing Adam Rainey here into the chicane. They're on the opposite tyres, so Lalu will have better traction initially, but that Brand GP car has just disappeared ever so slightly, but still 0.29 of a second across the line, and then the slipstream kicks in, and then will he just send it around the outside maybe? Please don't make contact. It's a very, very close, and Jukapala Lalu has got the position just. Adam Rainey won't take that sitting down. He's going to try and come back and grab that Royal Blue car later on.
Yeah, great bit of racing between those two drivers. Rainey is on the hard tyre, so has a little bit less grip than Lalu indeed. And you would especially expect Lalu to now run away a little bit in this second sector. Great overtake there though. Very respectful from both of the drivers, side by side through that entire first section of the track. And no contact, at least no big contact being made between the two. That's how it should be done, and we always like to see that, of course. Second between Roivers and Woznica now, and Aldermenger pretty much unchanged with Rietveld.
Yeah, Aldermenger really struggling to get past his teammate today, so normally we see a bit more pace out of the Dutchman. Rietveld doing very, very well, it has to be said. I think, what's his best result of the season? He hasn't actually finished on the podium at all this season. Best result of 5th at the Portuguese Grand Prix. He's also had a 6th at Zandvoort. He had a 6th at Indianapolis, a 7th in Spa last time out. 2 DNFs. He was 12th at the slightly shortened British Grand Prix. as we see Simon Frelick chasing Chatspantalis. So will he do to this Brem GP car what Lalu did to the other Brem GP car? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, they're as close as they were. Bit of snaking there from Chatspantalis as they head up towards turn 1. I don't think Frelick's going to be close enough, but he's going to try it anyway. No, ducks back out. And
ooh, mistake
a
there.
bit too deep there for Chatspantalis, but he just holds on, managing to use the sort of the wider line to get more traction out the other side. Frelick having a bit of a wobble, but still keeps it under control. And that's going to be... He's going to have to try again on the next lap, but understeer doesn't look very good from the Royal Blue car as it exits that little S section towards the two Daglers. But now, here's Oldermenger again at the back of Rietveld. Gap just 0.4 of a second, so a decent chicane here from Oldermenger. Will probably get him within striking distance down the start-finish straight. No DRS, remember, but it looks like he's a bit too far away at this point.
Yeah, once again, just didn't get the exit right. And it's just a little bit too far back. Galoxai almost drifting through the final corner there. He's going to try it around the outside, I guess, around Thomas Vaak. Here we go. Gonna be difficult, we've seen. It can be done. It's the outside curb, and that's almost going to be over for Galoxai, but he's still got the position. Drifting it through turns 1 and 2. And still gets the position to Thomas Vaak. Great bit of driving there by Galoxai on the limit. But very well done.
Yeah, surprised he didn't go far enough into a wall at that point, but he's ahead of the HM Engineering car. He's on the softer tyres, so he should pull away a tiny bit as we get a replay of this. We'll be seeing this on board from Thomas Vaak into turn 1, and just a bit of almost a bit of tandem drifting, but still, and then he goes off, and Vaak wisely backs out of it through the S's, because trying to go side by side through there isn't fun at all. Here's the replay from Galoxai's point of view. Round the outside, hits the curb, bit of oppo, just keeps it under control, and then that wider line for the traction gets him past through the S's. So some great racing today. We haven't really seen much in the way of contact between other drivers, as we're still looking at Tom Oldermenger here, and here might be the move for the lead as Vosnitzer is on the outside, and then he sweeps through to take that position. I think Roivers may have just let him go there, but if Roivers can keep the pressure up and Vosnitzer's tyres die off, that position could be switched come the end of the race. It depends on how much Vosnitzer can pull away. He's already got half a second. Can he make that gap bigger?
Yeah, there's of course still about 8 laps to go. So a lot of laps still to go for Vosnica to keep those tires fresh. Here we can see the overtake. Rover's going to the inside. And yeah, he just lifts.
Yeah, there you go.
Interesting to see though. I thought Rovers would fight a bit more. But doesn't seem like it. Of course, he's still got a big advantage coming into the next 2 races, even if he finishes second. But I would have expected him to fight a bit more for the championship today, but it doesn't seem like it. But like I said, might be a strategic kind of call. Still within a second of Vosnica. If you can keep this close for the rest of the race, might have a chance at the end.
Yeah, the soft tyres will burn off faster than the hards. Vosnitzer has a second in hand over Roivers right now, so Roivers might just be playing the long game here and just think, well, I might not get the win today, but I could get the win at the next Grand Prix at Malaysia, which will be a couple of weeks from now. And then the finale in Brazil, which is always a lot of fun, because it's a track that the drivers love. It's a track that provides plenty of overtaking, especially into turn 1. But still, you know, Oldermenger has dropped quite a bit to Rietveld now, by the looks of things. It's about 3 seconds behind him now.
Yep, might have made a mistake somewhere. I think he did. Let's have a look at the replay. Coming into Spoon, it seems.
Yeah, but he's already far enough back from him there.
Yeah. Might have made a multitude of mistakes.
There we go. That's not good. Because you'd have to lift right out of that going over the curve to make sure it doesn't spear you off, but Oldermenger not having a good time out there currently. Rietveld 6 seconds behind Roivers at this point, and Roivers still holding that 1 second gap to Vosnitzer. So Vosnitzer hasn't really pulled away at this point. So with about 8 laps remaining, it could swing back in favour of the Dutchman come the end, and we could be crowning a 2021 Pro Champion, but still can't be making those assumptions just yet because they've got to get to the end first. Let's look at your top 10. Vosnitzer, Roivers, Rietveld, Oldermenger, Kalaksai, Vak, Lalu, Rainey, Roger, Torres. So Cam doing pretty well up there in 9th now. Still got 2 seconds to Torres behind, so could be a best finish of the season on the cards for the guy who makes all this possible.
Yeah, looking strong. Roivers still doing well and sticking to Wozniak at the moment. Wozniak might also be being a bit conservative now, trying to save those tires. Not playing into the hand of Noah Roivers, who of course wants to see Wozniak burn those tires over the limit and then give him a chance at the end of the race. But he might have already done so. Already 9 laps into the stint, of course. It's going to be a relatively long stint on these tires for Wozniak, so I think it is definitely not over for Roivers.
All he's got to do is just get into that sort of half a second slipstream range, particularly here, because you sort of get 2 bites of the cherry, assuming that your chicane is good and proper. But as those softs burn off, breaking into the chicane will be harder and the exit will be even worse as the rears start to go off. So Roivers still has the opportunity to win this race. It's just going to be, well, not by doing that, you're not going to win the race, but still keeping with him. The gap stabilising around a second, so he's just following at the minute and hoping that Vosnitzer's tyres burn off too much for him to put up a fight when the time comes for Roivers to potentially get past and win this race.
Yep.
Gaps seem to have spread out. Barbakov and Freilich. Well, so Chasmantalis and Barbakov is probably the closest battle on track. There's about half a second between those two. I'm going to now look at Barbakov following the Prem GP car. Just a quick jink to the right to try and break the slipstream and get back onto the racing line for 130 up. On board with Barbakov into the chicane. Missed apex there from Chasmantalis, so that's not going to help things. And a bit of a wobble there, get the power down as well. About 0.4 of a second, he might... No, he's going to be too far away with that. The straight line speed just isn't there for the Royal Blue car. But Barbakov is starting to rattle Chasmantalis a bit now. Another missed apex. So Barbakov may get past, provided his tyres hold on as well, because you can see there the white wall hard tyres for Chasmantalis and the red wall soft tyres for Barbakov, and Freilich as well on the soft tyres. So this battle is definitely not over if they keep going as they are.
Definitely isn't indeed. Coming through the Dagners.
Hard braking for the hairpin. That can also slow the gap up a bit. Another wobble for Chasmantalis coming out of the hairpin, so he's not sort of having what happened to Vosnitzer, just not having fun on those hards and the soft tyres with the better traction. I suppose he's under pressure, being chased by 2 cars, trying to keep his car in 11th position for a good finish. So Chasmantalis' best result of the season is 9th, and that was at Azure. So wants to try and get some decent points, but here we go. This might be the move. Barbakov up the inside into the chicane, easy as you like. I think that might be the only move so far we've seen at the chicane.
Yeah. Now Barbakov already has to watch out as well from Freilich behind. But I think he has enough slipstream from Barbakov in front of him to keep Freilich behind. Yeah. Ooh, Barbakov, now don't miss the apex yourself. Yeah, gets a good run still. So Barbakov well and truly past Chatsipantelis. Now Freilich will be trying the same. Also on those soft tires. Those hard tires not doing too great for Chatsipantelis.
They're on board with Freilich through the Dagners. So people have been cutting that quite a lot. You can see the tyre marks on the grass on the inside as the cars head up towards the hairpin on lap 40 or 42. So we've got, just overcooked it ever so slightly. Meanwhile, up ahead, Roivers has closed in with half a second of Vosnitzer, so we'll probably need to keep an eye on that over the next couple of laps. But now this is where the final sort of moves of the race are going to happen. Felix a bit too deep into Spoon, that's not going to help. But Chasmentalis gets the second part wrong. So they're both tripping up at this moment in time. I don't think Chasmentalis will... Well, I think Chasmentalis will keep his position at the end of this lap, but unless Felix can get close enough. I mean, the gap says 4 tenths, the gap actually looks a bit bigger, but closes right up on the brakes and locks those brakes, and yeah, that's suboptimal.
Was almost gonna be race over for both of them. Felix a bit too late on the brakes there, locks them up, almost runs into the back of Satsipantelis, and now probably has a bit of a flat spot on his tire. That's not gonna help. But they get away with it for now. About 3 laps to go.
And here's the lead battle. Vosnitzer and Roivers, that was Matt Tewson's car that just sort of went through the shot before they arrived. You can just see, probably just see him in the distance as they come through the final chicane. Oh, a bit of a wobble from Roivers. Pushing, 6 tenths of a second is the gap. So it looks like it'll be hammer time for Roivers as they start the second to last lap. Let's see what Dutchman can do over the next sort of 7 miles or so. Keeping it nice and tidy. Vosnitzer's tyres are going to be a bit second hand. They're also degraded faster, so what can happen here? Gap's now half a second as it looks like Roivers has got more grip compared to his Polish teammate ahead. It's very, very tense. Can Roivers take the championship, or will it go over to Malaysia in a couple of weeks' time? Stick around and we'll find out. Oof, that's a lot of closing speed. It's not gone well for him. It went to 4 tenths and then it immediately went back up to 6 tenths. So that was a bit desperate from Roivers, but he's alive still, which is the main thing. Just got to keep it nice and calm. Missed apex there, wide from Vosnitzer, so he's just holding on. But I don't think it's going to happen unless he has a monstrous final lap. As we see them go through 130 up, get just about 4.5 tenths on the brakes into the chicane. Roivers has had a brilliant chicane there, so he's closed just 2.5 tenths of a second just in that chicane alone. So it's all to play for in the final lap here.
It definitely is, and we haven't seen, we've seen before that this final lap on Matsusaka can be very tricky. Also for the win, we've seen Martin Gosby in 2019, I believe, do an amazing move around the outside of Petter coming into the last corner of the last lap and taking victory there. Noah Roivers might be able to do the same, though he has to close in a bit further, and also a back marker coming into play now. I believe that is Tewson. So hopefully he gets out of the way nicely of this championship fight here.
Oh, maybe not. It's Gitsov, I think.
Could be. No, it's Tewson, I think.
Okay.
Anyway, about 5 tenths still between the two. This next corner is going to be crucial. If Roivers gets a good exit, runs it onto the curb. It's not going to help him. And I think he's too far back now.
Yeah. Unless Vosnitzer spins at the chicane, it's out of Roivers' hands. So Vosnitzer comes through the 130 up for the final time. Up towards the chicane. Roivers is still sniffing, trying to put pressure on. Oh.
Sent it over that curve.
Yeah. So Jan Vosnitzer will come across the line to win here in Japan. Roivers does not take the championship today. It will roll over to the next race at Malaysia as they sort of finish in formation. I'm sure if the feature was available in rFactor 2, they'd be waving at each other and things like that. Rietveld third, takes the podium for Burst. A brilliant result for him. Aldermenger fourth, Kalaksai fifth, Tomasz Vach in sixth, and Jukka-Pekka Laulu takes seventh. Adam Rainey will finish in 8th. Cameron Roger is being stalked by Alvaro Torres, but it looks like Cameron Roger will take his best result of the season. He'll take 9th. Alvaro Torres will take 10th. And then Stoyan Barbakov is about 17 seconds further back. Simon Frelick, George Chaspantalis, and Chris Gitsov will be in 14th. And Matt Tucson has just finished a lap down. The only driver to be lapped, as it so happens. So almost finished on the lead lap. So the top 10, now the top 11 has finished. And there we go. There's the formation flying from the top 3. Probably getting the social media stuff all sorted out just there. And there's your race winner, Jan Vosnitzer. The pole finishing in the lead, and everybody else sort of just cruising around behind. So we could probably just get the results now and get things all wrapped up, ready for the World Championship race, which comes very, very soon. So Jan Vosnitzer completes the 42 laps ahead of his teammate Noah Roivers, who put up a brilliant fight towards the end. Kasper Rietveld takes 3rd for burst simplicity, which I think is actually his best result of the season. It is. Tom Aldermenger in 4th. He might be a bit disappointed with that. He struggled to get past his teammate for the majority of the race. David Kalaksai finishes 5th for Royal Blue. Another good result for him. Thomas Vac for HM Engineering is 6th. Jukka Lalu is 7th, and Adam Rainey has recovered back up to 8th, although he might be wondering what could have been in this race. Cameron Roger takes 9th, and his best result of the season for Burst Simplexity Esport, and then Alvaro Torres rounds out the top 10. In 11th, it's Stoyan Barbakov for Royal Blue, followed by his teammate Simon Frelick. In 12th, George Chasmantalis, he's in 13th, and Chris Gitsov rounds out his debut in 14th position for Valet Esports, and then Matt Tucson for Invictus. He finishes 15th, a lap down and last, but still scores a single point. And then your DNFs. Viktor Ivanov, he retired after a spin at the hairpin. Ivan Leonov had a case of disco fever, as did Arif Roslav for Invictus. So we lost 3 drivers, but still everybody who finishes gets a point. So Noah Roivers is there on 203 points versus the 163 for Jan Vosnitzer, so he can win the championship at the next round at Malaysia. Tom Aldermenger is now out of it. He is too far behind now to win the championship, because he's now 53 behind Noah Roivers with 50 to play for. Ivan Leonov in 4th for Netrex, and that DNF will not do him any good. He could still be Aldermenger, but he'd need Aldermenger to really DNF in the next 2 races to get a Netrex 1, 2, 3 for the championship. David Kalaksai, he's comfortably there in 5th for Royal Blue. Kasper Rietveld in 6th. Zolt Schuks, who hasn't been around for the second half of the season, he's still in 7th somehow. Jukka Lalu in 8th. Viktor Ivanov in 9th for Netrex, and Alvaro Torres rounds out the top 10 in that respect, even though he's only done half of the season himself, the second half of the season I should say. He's in 10th on 59 points, so all to play for at the next round in Malaysia, and then the final round in Brazil, which is on the calendar there. Next up on the 8th of August, so probably about a week, 2 weeks from now, and then the Brazilian Grand Prix on the 22nd of August 2021. So we're going to move off now, and you'll be taken through the World Championship race at this very same track later on, probably about 45 minutes an hour from now. So get your dinner, get yourself a beer, and chill out and watch some great races, some great racing I should say, with some of the best drivers in open wheels, or just in rFactor 2 in general, because there's some brilliant drivers like Michi Hoyer, Yanni Simicic, and Ibrahim Khan, who won't be racing in that today. But still, thank you very much for joining us. I've been Aidan Millward. He's been Felix van Delft. We also had Alex Skinner for a bit, but he had some problems with his internet. And we will see you for the Malaysian Grand Prix on the 8th of August 2021. So until then, goodbye.